Welcome to Hey Therapist. I'm your host, Leslie Ross. With me is my producer, Jay Wesley Lindley. Let's get mental. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hey Therapist. We are on episode 30. Today, we are going to be talking about relationships. We're just going to kind of keep that moving. Last episode was about relationships. We're going to talk a little bit more. Love is in the air. Valentine's Day is coming up. So we're just going to keep talking about some of those things. And then after we get through with partner relationships, I think we're going to talk about that relationship with yourself. So that'll be coming up in an episode on its way. I want to talk about red flags. And you hear about red flags a lot. And sometimes we don't know what those exactly could be because maybe you don't have the best relationship with yourself, or you don't have that insight that keeps you on board and keeps you moving the right way and makes sure that you aren't allowing others to take advantage of you, or you're not in a relationship for the wrong reason. When we're talking about these things, I want you to think about that relationship with yourself. I want you to think about, why am I moving so fast? Why am I moving so forward? What do I need? Am I okay being alone? Because you have to be okay with being alone. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, as RuPaul says too, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love someone else? And also be loved by someone else. Because when you are in a mindset where you don't feel like you're worthy, or you feel like you need someone, because we talked about that, you feel like you need someone, you don't move forward. You jump into relationships, or you try to fit people, round peg, square hole, in many ways sometimes, but you just try to fit people into your life that aren't right for you. And I've had this happen to me, and I know men have this happen to them, and I know many people that have had this happen where you start chatting with someone and it's not clicking on both sides, but they're so adamant that you're the one for them and da-da-da-da-da-da, when you may not have things in common. There may be an attraction. You can be physically attracted to someone that it doesn't work with. And there may be some of that, but you can't have good conversations, or they don't ask you any questions about yourself, or you just don't feel comfortable. They don't give you the tingles. They don't fit your needs. They don't make you happy as you were with someone else. And even though we're not supposed to compare relationships with other relationships, sometimes you have to think about that. Like, if you were happy, wholeheartedly happy in another relationship, and you're now in a relationship where you're just not, then that's probably not the right relationship for you. Now, not all relationships are the same. We're not going to be happy in all relationships. We're not going to have the same level of happiness in all relationships. But if you can think back to a time where you were happier with someone else, then you probably shouldn't be with the person that you're with. What needs are they meeting? What are they satisfying for you? I know it's sometimes cheaper to keep her, as the saying goes, and that goes both ways, but there's not a cute little men phrase about that. It's why are you putting yourself through that? Why are you staying in a relationship where you could be happy, or just being alone? Because there's something to be said for being able to be alone instead of being alone and have someone beside you. It's hard when you're in a situation where you may not want to be alone at that time, but you're also not being fair to the person that you're with. You have to be fair. So what are we doing here? Like, if that person knows, listen, you're not the one for me, but I need somebody to cuddle, perfect. But if they don't understand that, then you have to let them know. You have to tell them, this is where I am. This isn't going to work. We're not a match. I enjoy you. Maybe you are able to have conversations. Maybe you are able to get along and you can enjoy each other's company, but maybe you differ on very fundamental things that in the end will come up, and they could become a real big problem. Say you have differences of opinion and I'll take a big one, differences of opinion in abortion. And I don't judge anyone for their opinion, and you do what you need to do, and however you need to do it, just be safe with it. But let's say you are okay with it, like it's my body, my choice. If someone decides that, then that's their decision. That's something they have to live with. But your partner, who may be super religious or super conservative or just against that, is now judging you for supporting your friend for having to do this or needing to do this or whatever the cause is. So it can put wedges eventually on down the line. And I know that's a kind of a big example, but those little things pop up too. Politics, uh, other people's relationships, those types of things can really come into play. And especially in the beginning of a relationship, there are people that when you're in a relationship with them, something happens to them and maybe they do drastically change within that relationship. And you go, wow, we've been in together for 4 or 5 years, but now, man, they're not the same person they were. That this, that, or the other happened. I understand why they're that way, but wow, this doesn't work for me anymore. And you're not obligated to stay in a relationship when everything changes. It's easy to grow and change. Well, I don't want to say easy, but it is possible to grow and change together as you get older, as things happen, as life happens. And that's because you have a relationship built on trust, good communication, you're open with each other, you're doing all of those things together, and it works out. But if one person's changing and the other person is digging their heels in and not being supportive and not on board and all of those things, then wow, that's going to create some misery within that household. So I want to talk about some red flags. And next episode, we're going to talk about green flags and how things can be good. And we're going to talk about things to keep your relationship great in the next episode. Like I said, we're going to do some relationship episodes here, and then we're going to talk about that singular relationship that you have with yourself. And I just want to give an example from my own life. I get hit up quite a bit. I'm not tooting my own horn, but it is what it is. And, I had someone message me and, I'm not going to out them too much. I don't know if they listen or not. And I'm not putting them on blast. I'd never say it. He messaged me. He found me on Facebook through a friend's Facebook. Like, I don't know this person. And he started chatting, and then I start looking at his Facebook, and he's recently separated from his spouse, and it was a bad deal. There was some infidelity on her part, and he was caught off guard by it, which does happen. You're messaging me talking about wanting to date and do these things, and then on his Facebook profile, it's, I miss this person. How could this happen? Da, 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, you're not ready. You're in no way ready to be like talking to people in the realm of dating. Like, maybe you need someone to cuddle. You may need someone to just go get it in with. You may need someone that just wants to go have drinks and hang out and nothing serious. I'm not the one. Like, I lived that life. I don't want to live that life anymore. And, so we've had conversations about that, and we still have conversations, and it's good. And he's a nice guy. And I think he probably will make someone a good partner, but there's healing that has to take place. And when you don't heal yourself, you're just bringing that onto someone else. And it's not fair to the person you're bringing it on when you still have feelings for the person that you were with. And that's something I dealt with before after a bad breakup. Like, I would, kind of date people that I'm like, you know what? I'm not ready. I'm not ready because my heart is still hurting. I'm not healed. I'm not ready for a relationship. It's important that, you find these things out. And even though social media can be the bane of a lot of things, it is good when you're trying to learn somebody. It is good when you're trying to learn someone because you can figure out what they say and what they do and what they post. And sometimes I post things that I just find interesting, or I know that someone may be struggling, or that it's gonna touch some of the people that are on my page, especially the Hey Therapist social pages. And so I'll post some things and then I'll get people messaging me like, "Are you okay? Is this about me?" Da, da, da. And I'm like, "Oh my God. No, I just thought it was interesting, or I thought it was enlightening, or it was something that would have made a difference in my life months ago or years ago or yesterday, whatever it is." So yeah, it's one of those interesting things that if you're really stalking someone's page and you're super into yourself, then you may think it's about you, and it may be about you. And if you think it's about you, then you probably might want to rethink what's being about you. I mean, I had someone repost something that I had posted, a funny little meme about not texting people back. And, it was like, I didn't text you back because something, something, something. It was like, because I was busy and I was doing something else and I totally forgot you existed for a moment. Da, 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 da. It's a joke. Like, I don't ever forget someone exists, but I'm going to forget maybe for days to text you back because I'm doing a whole lot of other things and all kinds of things are happening. And so I may forget. Well, someone else reposted that and was like, "This is the problem with people, da, da, da." I'm like, okay. So I liked it. I thought it was funny. I actually used a little laughy emoji on it and then they deleted it off there. But I'm like, come on, bro. Like, seriously, come on. So social media can tell you a lot about someone, or people may just use it for silliness and nonsense. And like, for me, I post a lot of things that are kind of my thoughts or something, like I said, that could help something I know that maybe one of my friends is going through. So I post it because I know they're going to see it because we're very social media active. Their dating information could be on their social media, but if you're on the dating apps, their dating profile matches who they really are. If it doesn't, this could be a really big red flag. Men lie about their height. Don't lie about your height. If we're interested in you, we don't care. If we have great conversation, we don't care. But eventually we're probably going to meet. And if you lie about your height, which I've had that I had that happen to me when I was on dating apps back a long time ago. This guy had said he was 6 foot and I'm going to say 5'4". I like to say I'm 5'4". I'm not sure I'm quite there, but I like to say I'm 5'4". I met him at a bar. He steps off the bar stool and he's shorter than me. And his profile said he was 6 foot. I'm like, what, bro? And we had great conversation. Like if he would have been my height, said he was a little shorter. I'm not that vain. I'll meet up with you. You never know. But I left. I was like, okay, I'm going to go. He's like, why? I said, because you lied on your profile. Well, if I would have told the truth, you might not have liked me. And I was like, well, I don't like liars. So I left and he sent me a really shitty message. But I'm like, bro, you lied. If they say they're an avid hiker and you're like, okay, cool. There's this trail that goes up and we could do this. And like, oh, I just like walking on like walking tracks. Okay. And maybe they put something on their profile because they're insecure or they are afraid of being judged, but then just don't put that on your profile. Let that come up later. But whatever, the reason is, and it could be for complete lack of self-awareness, which also is not someone that you want to date because, my goodness, if they can't write a profile that's truthful, then they probably can't be truthful in a lot of other areas in their life, or they're super insecure and they wrote the profile to impress someone, which again, I get it. We're all trying to put our best foot forward. Like on that first date, most people are not who they really are. You're trying to impress. You're trying to say the right things. You're trying to do the right things. But if we could just be who we are, you can weed out and stop wasting a whole lot of time. Another thing that happens when you talk to people and they're telling you their stories and you get down to, talking about exes and talking about all of these things, they describe all of their exes as crazy. All my exes are crazy. All my exes are crazy. Okay. So my question is, are you dating that many unstable people, or are you the problem? Because if a person can't identify a area, if they can't, in every relationship, it takes two people. And sometimes, there are those outliers where someone just cheats or someone was a liar and they just did terrible things and it's time for you to go, no, I'm not doing this. I'm out. And you really didn't do anything. It's just their issues that they're not healed from and they do the stuff. Fine. But that's kind of an outlier. But if you have a relationship with someone, there's a time and a place where you probably played a role in whatever caused the breakup. And I can look at I can look at all of my relationships, not one. I can look at all of my relationships and go, I could have done that better. And I'll admit that. And I will tell whoever I date next that, like, I could have done this better. I was passive aggressive. I was needy. I was, a little anxious and needed reassurance too much. All of those things. I can own that behavior. And I know that that's annoying for a lot of people. So I know that that can push people away. I'm aware, but you have to be able to own your own things. If all of their exes are crazy, quote unquote, the odds are good that you're going to find out how they ended up crazy. Because most of the time when people describe someone, oh, they were crazy, they were doing all this stuff in the end, and they were calling me all the time, or trying to stalk me, or they were chasing me down, trying to find out where I was, da 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 da. Well, okay, but were you not telling them where you were? What kind of relationship did you have that they didn't know where you were? Were you not communicating well? Were you being abusive? Were you being toxic? Were you being passive aggressive? Were you doing all of these things, or aggressive? Were you doing all of these things where you had someone on the other end trying to make a relationship work, trying to connect with you, all of this, and they're spiraling? So they are reaching out. They are multiple texting you. You've ghosted them, even though you're in a relationship and you're supposed to have good communication. You got in an argument and now you're ghosting them and not answering their phone calls and not answering their texts. So yeah, they're probably blowing your phone up and you're going, oh my God, this bitch is crazy. Well, I mean, yes, we all need some self-control. And if someone wants to leave, let them. If they want to ghost you, boy, bye. Girl, bye. Whatever. If they are all crazy, you might be the problem. Another big red flag is jealousy and that controlling, possessive behaviors. It's kind of cute when you're out as a couple or you're going out and someone is like, what, that guy's looking at you. That girl's looking at you. What do you think? And you're like, oh, you get a little protective, you get a little closer, whatever it is. Like, there's some times where you're like, I don't like that. I'm that person that, like, I find it flattering for me because I don't date people I don't trust. And that's what jealousy and controlling behavior is about. It's either something within yourself that you need to heal, or you are with someone you don't trust. Either way, it's not a relationship you need to be in. I've been out and I've gone to the bathroom or whatever, and maybe we were just standing at the bar and I come back and there's some girl chatting my man up and I'm like, oh, that's right. He cute. Look at him. And, I'm not the one that's like, what are you doing? Why are you talking to her? Who was that? Because if they're going to cheat, they're going to cheat. If they're going to do shady things, they're going to do shady things. You controlling them is not going to stop that. Lashing out and saying, and you get people who are crazy. You controlling them is not going to stop any of that behavior. You lashing out or judging them or questioning them or any of that is just going to make them frustrated at you. And it can be to the point where they're so controlling and jealous, they don't want you talking to your work friends. They don't want you talking to your same-sex friends. They don't want you going out without them. They don't, like, what in the world? Like, that's crazy. They're going through your phone. You can't lay your phone down because they're going through your phone. We talked about this last episode. If you're going through somebody's phone, you're probably going to find something you don't like. But you also shouldn't be in a relationship where you feel like you have to go through your phone. If you get to that point where you're like, I have to look, you have to leave. It's time to go. Just pack your shit or heal yourself because there's something in you that's not healthy. If you have that jealousy or someone's feeling jealous, it's a very toxic and abusive behavior, honestly, because it can lead to isolation. It can lead to them making you distance from the people that you're with, the people that are your core group, because they don't want anyone pointing out how terrible their behavior is to you. Watch out for that jealousy and possessiveness. Again, it's kind of cute to be like, get over here, that guy's looking at you. Get over here, that guy. Hi, I'm his girlfriend. I'm the boyfriend. Nice to meet you. Whatever it is. But you should be able to do that in a playful way. Because I'm the one that's going to be like, oh my God, look at her. My gosh, her boobs are great. Look at that ass. I'm not going to be jealous because my dude is looking, because we all look. everybody looks. Everybody looks. And if you're hiding it or you're afraid to get in trouble for it, then it's a conversation you have. Just because you're looking doesn't mean you're going to do anything. But you can appreciate a good-looking person out in the world. It doesn't mean you love your partner any less. It doesn't mean that you aren't sexually attracted to them and you don't want to, like, it's just crazy the things that I've heard people say in relationships and in therapy and all of those things. Another red flag is if they're teasing you in that put down way. And it's usually followed with, it was only a joke, because they notice that your feelings are hurt now. They're going to point out your flaws. They're going to say things about maybe your body, or one of those things that, it's just, it makes you feel bad inside. And you say, listen, I don't like it. And you can, be sarcastic with each other. You can joke, you can have a sense of humor, whatever. But if your partner says, I don't like that, I don't like the way that makes me feel, that I'm insecure about my belly, I'm insecure about my ears, whatever it is that they're insecure about, and you've told them this and you've asked them to stop and they won't stop, it's a big, giant red flag. Because if you tell your partner that they're hurting your feelings, if you tell them that you don't like it, and it doesn't change, they don't stop. They don't go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I was just kidding. I legit was just kidding, but I'll never say it again. And they never say it again. Perfect. Because maybe they think when you joke about it, it's okay for them to joke about it. You're joking about it because you're insecure and you don't want to point out. But if you say, listen, I don't want that, and they don't stop, that's a big red flag, because that says early on that they will not respect other boundaries that you try to set. They're not going to stop doing things when you ask them to. They're not going to respect your other boundaries. They're not going to go along with what you need, what you want, because obviously they don't care. It's a big sign of disrespect, and it's a big sign that they just absolutely don't care. Another red flag is rushing into relationships. This goes back to kind of the story I was telling at the beginning. I've had relationships move very, very, very quickly, and it felt right on all ends. It was, I was in a good spot. They were in a good spot. Like, it felt really, really right. It lasted for a while, and it was great, but it moved very, very, very quickly. Now, you have to be careful in this, though, because there is the phrase love bombing. I'm sure everyone has heard this phrase at this point. And it's someone who wants to move quickly. They're, I loving you, and let's move in together, and let's do all of these things, and you're the best thing I've ever had. And they don't know anything about you. You've barely been talking. You have little chats. You've gone out on a couple dates, and they're in love with you. Be careful, especially when it's not mutual, especially when you're not like, oh my God, this was love at first sight. This was something that I have never felt before. And you've gotten to know them, and you've had conversations to know that you're at the least compatible. But if they're doing this before you've had those conversations, you've only been out on a couple dates, you don't talk that much in between, and they're love bombing you, be careful, because it can be a sign of codependency. It can be a sign of narcissism. It can be a sign of abuse, and it may feel really good, but there's just something in you that's probably going, boy, I don't know. Something about this is just not right. And if you have that feeling, if you're anxious about them pushing, if you're anxious about them wanting to speed up and you are not on the same page, then you let them know that. And if they are not okay with you not being on the same page, it's a problem. So be careful, because not only could it be a behavior that turns into an abusive behavior. How could you do this because I love you so much? How could you do this? Da, 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 da. It's also a sign of codependency. So either way, it's probably not going to end well. If you're fighting already, if you are in a relationship and you fight constantly, or let me backtrack. If you are in a new relationship, if you are just starting to date someone and you're already arguing about things and you're already fighting about things, just cut bait. Like nothing is going to change. You're not going to work it out. There's no reason. Why are you arguing with someone you just met? You just started dating. Like it's a sign. Stop. Back away. Restart. I know the dating world sucks. I know the struggle is real, but my goodness, value added. They have to be value added. If you're in a relationship and you're fighting all the time, if you're fighting and arguing because they forgot to do something or you're wanting them to do something and there's so much conflict, like your romantic partner is someone you're supposed to like love and cherish and take care of and want to do the best for and want to make happy. And of course, the world is not rainbows and puppies. You're going to argue. You're going to get into those things. But if you're fighting all the time about all the things and you can barely go a day or two getting along and then you're back to arguing, again, I ask, why? I mean, you may love them and that's fine. You can have love for someone and know this is not someone I want to be with. There's somebody out there that can make them happy. There's someone out there that can make me happy because neither of us are happy. No one's happy. But you say, but I love them. I do love them. And that's okay. You can love them. They can be a good person, but not your person. Set them free. Set yourself free. Move on. Find someone that can make you happy. Another red flag that I think about, and this is a big one for me, because I worked a lot in the service industry. And I don't know if y'all have, on a side note, if you haven't watched the series The Bear and you ever worked in the restaurants, oh my gosh, go watch it. I know it won a bunch of awards, which usually turns me off to things because usually the ones that win awards, I don't enjoy. The Bear is so good and it's so true to restaurant services and just drinking out back with out of the ramekin things and just, I mean, it is spot on. I love it. But if you're with someone and they are rude to people in the service industry, if you're going through the drive-thru and they can't even say thank you, if you're sitting in a restaurant and they snap at someone or something's wrong and they're being so rude, or maybe you're just shopping and they're rude to be like, oh, it's a huge red flag. If you're at a bar and ordering drinks and they're rude to the bartender because it took them a little longer and the bartender may be like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. We're behind. They're like, yeah, you better hurry up and get what? You just said what to someone you don't know? It shows, for me, it shows a weakness in them because I'm like, this is where you're choosing to exert your power over someone who that can't say no to you, that can't do anything, that has to be nice to you, and you're being shitty to them. Like it is one of my biggest turnoffs. I cannot with someone talks to servers, bartenders, wait staff, people at restaurants, or even, drive-throughs, whatever. Like there is never a reason to be rude to someone who is just doing their job. This minimum wage worker, hell, in the restaurant service, they make what, $2.13 an hour or something plus tips. Minimum wage worker has no power to fix probably whatever went wrong. Like they can try to make it right. They can go get the people, but being rude to them is not going to get you anywhere. And it's a big giant turnoff. Like I just cannot with that. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. Another red flag is when they aren't trying to help you feel better, or they're not really trying to get to know you. If you're just starting to date someone, or you're starting to talk and you're chatting, whatever, and you're asking questions and you're trying to get information and they'll answer you, but then they don't ever ask you any questions. They're not trying to find out anything about you. They're not asking what you like. They're not asking what's going on. Or you say, man, I had a really bad day and this, that, and the other happened, da, da, da. And they're like, oh yeah, I know how that goes. My day was this is this. Cool. Like okay, so I guess we're through with my part. We're not going to talk about, you're not going to ask questions. You're not going to try to do anything to help make it better, or even give me oh my gosh, that does sound terrible. Like just affirm, just give me some validation. and we can continue. You don't have to truly understand. Like, most people I date do not understand what I do. They don't understand that I literally make life and death calls. And so they don't truly understand that. But try, maybe. Try to understand that sometimes I don't want to talk. Like, try, maybe. When they're not trying at all, or you say that and then they come back with, oh my gosh, yes, this happened to me and da 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 da, and they dump on you and you're trauma bonding essentially, but they're just dumping all the things on you, and you are being, supportive and listening and asking questions, and they're not. It's a big red flag. Another thing that I just thought of when you're talking about big red flags is when you are with someone and you take some time apart. You want to go hang out with your friends. You want to go on a girls' trip, on a guy's day. You want to do all of those things because you should do those things. You should nurture all of the relationships in your life. And you want to do those things, but yet they don't want you doing those things. They don't want you, going to, oh, please don't go. I'm going to miss you so much, which is cute. Okay, I'll miss you too. But then they're like, but if you go, I'm going to be mad at you. Or it's not fair that you're going out with them because maybe they don't have any friends. Or I don't trust your friends and I don't trust you when you're out. Da, 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 da. Okay, why are you with them? Or maybe you do, maybe they're like, okay, yeah, go out. Just message me, when you can or whatever. It's like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to be with my friends, so I probably won't have my phone, but I'll message you when I can. I'll check in if I can. If not, it's not that big of a deal, but they're blowing your phone up all night. What are you doing? Where are you at? What are you doing? Where are you at? Where are you doing? Where are you at? Like, trust me, I'm not going to do anything. And when they're doing that, it's controlling. It's probably their anxious style. Maybe they're insecure, but it's a them problem, not a you problem. You should be able to go out. And if they keep doing it and you're like, oh, God, I'm just going to go home because I don't want to put up with this. Now they've won. And again, they're isolating you. They're starting to be able to isolate you, to take you away from your friends because they're going to ruin your time when you're out with your friends. And if they can do that enough, then you'll stop going out, which means you'll give them all of your attention, which again is abusive behavior. You should have friends. You should go out. You should do things, even if it's going out by yourself. You want to see a movie. They don't want to really see it. You don't want to make them go, listen, I'm just going to go to the movies by myself. And they have an issue with that, or whatever it is that you're going to do by yourself, and they have an issue. It's a problem. It's a big, giant lack of trust, for one. It's overly controlling. And, you have to be careful with that. One of the other things that you need to look for is substance abuse issues. And sometimes it's not a clear-cut issue. Sometimes you don't know how long or how much someone is using. They may say, oh, I only drink a couple of drinks. I don't drink during the week. But you go out and they're getting shit-faced. They are blackout drunk every time you go out. And then maybe you stay over during the week and they're like, hey, let's have some drinks. You're like, yeah, cool. We're hanging out. It's not that big of a deal. But then you're finding out this behavior, and that substance abuse it's a pretty big red flag. It's pretty self-destructive, and it can turn pretty toxic. And if you yourself may have had some issues with addiction or anything like that, you have to be careful because it's real easy to fall into that trap of, it's okay if we have a drink tonight. It's okay if we have a drink tonight. It's okay if we drink tonight. And then you're drinking every night and you're getting drunk on the weekends or even weeknights, and your body is suffering, your brain is suffering, your work is suffering, your other relationships are suffering. So, it's one of those things to really look out for and make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Another red flag is their inability to communicate openly. And through the themes of all the podcasts, I will say it. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'll continue to say it. Communication is key. And open, honest communication is key. We shouldn't be lying to each other about what's going on. You should tell me when I hurt your feelings, if I'm not the one for you, if this just isn't going to work, if whatever it is, you should be able to communicate that. And it doesn't come easy for some people. Some people think that any communication, any time that they bring up something, it's going to be conflict, it's going to be an argument, which in their past, maybe it was. And this could be something that they need to heal within themselves. But if you are trying to be open and communicate and you're coming in it gently and you're saying, hey, listen, when you do this, it hurts my feelings. And I would really prefer that you didn't, or I need more of this. This is just something that I really enjoy and I'm asking you to do for me. If they aren't doing that and they can't do that, then that's a pretty big sign that they're just unwilling to communicate. Sometimes it feels like a confrontation. And I say this all the time to clients and everything else. Communication is not confrontation. If you're going in with the theory, I have to confront them, then you probably, maybe even subconsciously, are going in aggressive. You may be coming in with some attitude. You may have a tone. You have to watch your tone. Be careful when we're communicating, especially about things that you know might hurt someone's feelings, especially when you're saying, hey, listen, I am not liking a behavior of yours. On the other hand, they may not even know they're doing it. They may not even recognize that this is a behavior they have, that this is a habit they have, that this is something that they do when they feel confronted or attacked or whatever it is. Emotions may not have ever been appropriate or approved for them. So anger may be their only emotion that they've ever been allowed to display in situations like this. So they may get angry. And that's when you say, listen, I want to say this. I want to make this statement. You may get upset by it. And if you do, it's fine if we don't talk right away. I want you to just sit with it and process it and figure out how you feel about it. And then we can have a conversation about it. Sometimes when we're approaching delicate things, we have to give those individuals time instead of saying, well, you have to answer me right now, give me an answer. Well, they may not have an answer, or their gut reaction, that knee-jerk answer, is not going to be something you want to hear. And it could be mean. And maybe they don't want to be mean. Maybe that's not how they want to communicate, but you're pushing them and they feel vulnerable. That could create a response that they don't even want to give you. And then we have to have another conversation about reactions and apologies and all of those things. Whereas if we go into it saying, hey, listen, I'm going to say something and it's going to maybe hurt your feelings. I hope it doesn't, because I just want this to be an open communication dialogue. But when you say things like that, or when you don't message me in the morning, when you don't call me, or when you don't check in, or when I post something on social media, you don't like it, whatever it is, it hurts my feelings. I feel like you don't care. I feel like you're not validating me and all of those things. And if you push, their first response be, well, that's stupid. You know I care about you. You know I love you. Da, da, da. So now we're name calling. We're being put down. We're not being heard. Instead of saying, I just want you to think about it. Like, I just wanted to say that. I want you to think about it. And then we'll come back to it. I'll check in with you and see if we can talk about it. But this is how I feel about it. And I want to know how we can make it better. I want to fix it, because that's really what you should want. All in all, you really just want to communicate. You want to make sure that we're doing everything we can. But when you're having those gut reactions, when you're saying this just doesn't feel right, or, I mean, yeah, they're okay. I mean, they make me happy. When I hear friends say that, when I'm like, well, oh, tell me about your new guy or girl or whatever. And they're like, yeah, they make me happy. Huh? Like, that is not the response that I expect to get when you especially first start dating someone. If you've been together for 15, 20 years, you may not be like, oh my gosh, every day I wake up with a smile on my face when I hear their name, or I'm smiling at my phone, because that's the best feeling, right? When you're dating someone and you get that message and you look down and it's something cute that they've sent you, a meme or just a good morning or just an I love you, and it just makes you smile at your phone like an idiot. That is the best feeling ever. And if you're not having that, especially in the early phases, there could be a problem. You may want to reflect on why you're in this relationship. What is it providing for you? Are you just lonely? And if you're lonely, that's okay. You can be lonely and you can be out there just trying. And it's a grind to find someone you connect with and to find someone who checks most of your boxes and that you can be excited about and that brings a smile to your face. But if they're not doing any of that, then there's a lot of red flags that you need to pay attention to. And there's probably something in you that knows this isn't the relationship for you. But maybe they have a history of abandonment and you don't want to abandon them, so you're sticking it out. Well, like, wait, what? So instead of saying, listen, I'm not the one for you, this isn't working, they could be a great person. They may be wonderful, but just not your wonderful. And you can say that and say, listen, I understand. And if you can end it well enough, maybe you can be friends. I'm a firm believer that you can be friends with people that you've had a relationship with. And it usually, stops when they get someone new because someone's jealous about it. But if you can say, listen, yeah, we had a great time, but we weren't the ones. They were not my person. But hey, I really enjoyed conversations, or I was able to have conversations about this with you that I don't get to have with other people. We really enjoy this thing and not a lot of other people do. And so I want to be able to talk to you about it. And if that's okay, let's keep doing that. Maybe until you find someone else and all of those things. But everyone is on the same page and they say, yeah, you're right, this isn't it. We don't stay with people because we don't want to hurt them, because staying with someone that you're not fully in is hurtful. Think about it. Would you want someone staying with you when they didn't fully love you, or it wasn't the same feelings that you had, just because they didn't want to hurt your feelings? Like, hurt my feelings, let me be sad, but let me move on and find someone who is a better match. So you have to pay attention to these things. Sometimes there could be not exactly red flags, but maybe just some yellow flags. We've talked about a lot of solid red flags, and most of the red flags are either outlandish behavior, that gut feeling, or pattern behaviors that you see that you're just like, ooh, this isn't changing. But there may be some yellow flags, and yellow flags are kind of the same as that yellow light. Well, no, let me take that back, because when we see a yellow light, most of us speed up to go through it, and we don't want to speed up and go through it. That yellow warning is like just a little warning. Hey, slow down. Let's address this, because maybe they don't realize what they're doing. The red flag is they don't want you to go out. I don't want you going out at all. Yellow flag is fine, you're going to go out, but then I'm going to be mad at you about it. Just pay attention to those yellow flags. How are they acting when you do something they don't necessarily agree with, or when you hurt their feelings, or when you're not communicating well, or whatever it is, and they do these little icky things that you're just like, oh, I mean, that's not cool. Like, I don't really know that it's a hard stop, but something about that doesn't feel right. Those are your yellow flags. That's the time that we slow down and we address it. And then we see what happens, because we are all human and we're all going to do stupid things, and we're going to say stupid, hurtful things, and we're going to have behaviors that may not jive with our partners. We're going to say all of this stuff, but when it's addressed, when someone brings it to you, and maybe they are being unreasonable because of their past, because of what they have dealt with in previous relationships, that's when you find that compromise. Like, listen, I realize that you were with someone that years into your relationship, every time they went out with their friends, they weren't actually going out with their friends. They were cheating on you. I am not that person. So how do we make it where I can go do what I want to do with my friends, because I'm not doing anything that you wouldn't approve of? You could walk in at any time and see me out with my friends or whatever, and know that we're just there for the friend group. Nothing is happening, but that you feel secure about it. So it may be having to check in a little more than you want, but that's when it's a mutual agreement. It's not the controlling. You're going to check in with me every hour. I want to know where you are. If you leave the place, you're going to tell me where you went. There's a difference in kind of nurturing someone through their trauma, their pain, which is something that they should have already done before they're in a relationship with you. Maybe they didn't even realize it was a trigger. Maybe they didn't realize that stuff was still in there. but now they really do care about you. And last time they did that, it didn't end well. And it didn't end well because of this, whatever situation. So now that that's happening, they're triggered a little bit. They're feeling a little insecure. How do we address that insecurity without losing ourselves, without it being a punishment, without us changing our behaviors totally? We want to look at that, and we want to address those, and we want to address them with tact. We want to be honest with our person. We want to tell them exactly what you feel when you feel it. You have to acknowledge your own needs. You have to do those things that say, yeah, I mean, they're not meeting this. And my first question is always, well, have you talked to them about it? Well, no, because when I talk to them about things, they get mad. Okay, red flag, because you should be able to talk to your partner about anything. If they get mad, but then they separate, they go into their room, they think about it, we talk about it. But that's not usually how it works. Well, they got mad and they call me stupid for wanting that. Just like, oh, yeah, this is unhealthy. And if we're talking about our red flags, if we're talking about those things that are bothering us, you want to avoid being emotional. Watch your tone, watch your face. We don't go in being confrontational. And if you're at the point where you've said it so many times that now it is a confrontation every time you're saying it, why are you still there? What are we fighting for? What are you in this relationship for? Your needs are not being met. And again, we can love someone. We can love someone so much and they just not be the one. And that's okay. And it sucks. It sucks so bad when that's the case, that maybe they do check a whole lot of boxes, but there's some things that are just missing. There's some things that are just not connecting that you need. It sucks when it comes to that. A lot of relationships do. When we're addressing these things, we want to be kind of neutral. You're going into it when you aren't upset about it, when you aren't mad about it, when you aren't, your feelings will probably still be hurt, but not as raw as they were when whatever happened. And you want to go in not being emotional. You need to be very neutral, matter of fact. This is the situation. This is what hurt my feelings. This is why it hurt my feelings. And what are we going to do about that? So it's one of those things that you get to be in control of. And if you've been in a relationship for a long time, you may have to seek professional help. There's a lot of online therapy options now that insurance pay for, or they do sliding scale that can help you. You can get a therapist right there. You could do some couples counseling. They can just help you through that resolution, because sometimes when we get so emotional about something and both sides' feelings are hurt, it is hard to come up with a compromise. And maybe you do need a third party, and you don't want to talk to your friends about it. You don't want to tell them what's going on because you don't want them judging anyone, because you both probably recognize that this is something internally that you need to fix, that you guys need to work on. Seek help if you need it. Primarily when it comes to red flags is be honest with yourself. Resolution is always easier when you're honest. Making the right decision is always easier when you're honest. Because if you sit down and you're doing kind of a relationship evaluation internally and you're like, yeah, I'm not happy. Okay. Why are you not happy? Are you not happy with yourself? Are you not happy in this relationship? Are you not happy with the way things are going? Why are you not happy? And then you have to look at, is it something that I can fix on my own? Because maybe it is internal. Maybe it is something that you have dealt with for a long time, or it's past stuff from other relationships that you need to deal with. Okay, deal with that. Again, seek professional help if you need to, or just sit down and work out why you feel that way. Where does it come from? Where did it create? And is this real? And you may even have to ask, you can ask friends and family, say, hey, listen, you guys know me and you've known me in relationships. Do I self-sabotage? Because a lot of times we do. I've known plenty of people, and I've done it myself, where you're in a relationship and everything is going good and it scares you to death because you don't feel like you're deserving of a good relationship. You don't feel like you're worthy of being loved the way that they're loving you, even though you love them back. You just are so sad or self-conscious or anxious about being hurt that you self-sabotage, you push them away, you start fights, you do these little things, and finally they're going to get sick of it and it's going to be the end. It's important to understand why you're acting the way you're acting. And I mean, you may need a focus group. You may need to say, hey, listen, you know me best. You've seen me do this. How do I react? And they may be like, yeah, when you get serious with someone, you hit that 2-3 month mark and you start crawfishing because you're scared or whatever it is. And you can go, okay, let me recognize that. Let me work through this and figure out if I am really unhappy with this person or if this is just my behaviors. You have to get to that place where you could address those things, and sometimes you can know when to leave. Not all relationships are for a lifetime. Some relationships are for a lesson, and it sucks. And I'm sick of learning lessons, but I mean, sometimes that's just where we are, and you can't be who you want to be, who you could be if you're in a relationship that's holding you back, that's not encouraging, that's not being someone who is building you up. Like I want to be the most supportive partner. I will support you in all the things. I am going to help you out when you need help. I don't care what it is. Like, let's go. You know, maybe not quit your job to go do things, but let's figure out a way that you can build this other side while you still have a job and you can still build money so that you can leave to do this dream that you have. Like I am going to be the biggest hype man that there is for my partner. And that's what you should be for yours. It's mutual. And if you're the only one being a hype man and the other one is just holding you down, not wanting you to succeed, not wanting you to excel, not wanting you to move forward, not wanting you to hang out with friends, not encouraging you to learn or grow or whatever it is, it's a problem. And it could be time to leave. Think on your relationships. If you have questions, send them in to the website, to my email, whatever. You can contact me and we can talk about it. And maybe we can talk about it on the podcast. You can talk about it with me, or I can talk about it on the cast without you and just kind of go over a scenario. You have to know what the red flags are, what your fence posts are. What are the things that you need in a relationship that won't come down? What are the things that you know that you have to have? And if you're talking to someone or you're going out with someone and they don't have those things or they're not meeting those needs, especially in the beginning, and you say, hey, this is what I need, because you are now self-aware and you have done the work and you have worked on yourself and you're emotionally secure, and you say, this is what I need. And they say, yeah, I can't give you that. Okay, it's time to go. And it may be hurtful. And it may be hurtful to them because they're like, well, but I do all these other things. Yeah, but you can't give me this thing. And I know in me, I need this. It's time to go. So just pay attention to what you need. Pay attention to those gut reactions and do what you need to do for you. And I know being single sucks sometimes. Trust me, I get it, especially this time of year when it's all cold and you just want to snuggle with somebody. But also, I know how much shittier it is to be in a relationship with someone who you don't like even, or they're not the one, but they're filling a void, you think, but they're really not. Because if you're with someone, if you're dating someone just because you're lonely, again, it is not fair to them. You're being selfish, and it's not fair because they probably have real feelings for you. It's not fair to yourself because in reality, you're not getting what you want from it. Like, yeah, there may be a body there and they may be giving you cuddles. It's not what you want. It's not who you want them from. It's not the way you want it. So why? Why are we even messing with that? So make those decisions. Think about your relationships. Think about yourself. Think about what you want and need. And next week, we are going to talk about green flags. So all good things next week. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you next week. For my producer, Jay Lindley, I'm Leslie Ross. Thank you all for joining us. Please send any questions or comments through the website, heytherapist.com, or email help@heytherapist.com. They may be featured on the show anonymously. Hey Therapist is an SEOK radio production and is for your entertainment purposes only. Thank you for joining us. Make good choices.